Hello again, everyone. I am here today with sort of an unboxing, but I'm also going to be comparing this pen to some other similar pens. So this is a Lamy, as you can see from the box, and this is a Lamy model that I never thought I would end up getting just because of the price of it. However, I discovered a website called Endless Pens, and they have a weekly, I think they call it like a hopper deal, something like that. I will put a link to the website down below. But every week they have a different set of pens that are on deep, deep discount, and then you get an additional 33% off or something like that. So this was one of the pens that was offered a couple weeks ago, and I went ahead and got it. Even though it was still over $100, this is normally a pen that can retail for as much as in the 300s. So this was quite the find. It was kind of on my wish list for a while because I kind of like the design of it, but I'll go ahead and show you what this is. So this is a Lamy Dialog 3. So it comes in this really beautiful box. Generally, Lamys don't come in this nice of a box. And then this beautiful pen is in here, and I'll show you more about the pen here in a second. This box itself came in a white box like this, so I just took this out, and the box itself actually had, let's see, it had this little sheet about the pen, and then here's the business card for Endless Pens. So that's the website where I got this. I'll put a link to them down below. This deal is probably not available at the time that you are seeing this video because they have a different sale every week. So you never know what you're going to get. One week it was Pelicans. They have good stuff, and I'm not quite sure how they're able to offer it for such a low price. You do have to subscribe to their email newsletter in order to get the, I think it's called Hop Drop. That's what it is, to get the Hop Drop deals. But, you know, to get a pen that's, you know, normally worth $300 some for $100 some is worth it to me. So, so this little guide here tells you how to use each of your pens. This is not specific to the Dialog 3, but it does have the Dialog 3 here. This is basically all of their pens, and I think they put this in pretty much every package. They also show all of their different pens here on the back, or at least, yeah, I mean, that looks like a pretty good representation. There may be some missing from there. Okay, so I will show you what I'm gonna, and in the box here, I'm just gonna lift this real quick if I can. It seems kind of stuck. There we go. So in the box here, it has a whole little booklet, which I actually have not looked at yet. And you can use cartridges. You can use a cartridge or a converter with this pen. I have a converter in there filled with ink now. And then I'm not quite sure what this little guy is. I'll have to look. I'm not sure if this is a replacement part or if it's an actual tool to get some part of the pen off. And let's see. I think mostly what you're going to get in here is sort of, you know, pretty pictures of the pen and how to use it. I already knew how to use it because I'd watched several reviews about this pen. And I think this pen is kind of polarizing because, I'm going to get this off to the side here, because essentially it is a retractable pen, but it's a little bit bulky. Part of the reason why I didn't want to spend a ton of money on this pen is because I didn't know if it would feel right in my hand. And I actually don't mind a heavier pen. So even though my hands are fairly small, actually they're pretty small, I don't mind a heavier pen. I kind of feel like then I know that I'm writing with a pen of quality or something like that. But so how this retracts, okay, so there's actually a little mechanism here, and when you twist the barrel, it opens the door and the nib unit comes out. And there you go. And this has a gold nib unit, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a minute. Oh, I got ink on my finger. And then when you move it back again, it retracts. And also, so this pen clip does not extend very far, and it's also pretty close to the body. But when you put the pen when you put the nib out, it also moves down the pen clip into the body, which is kind of cool. So you have less of a something that's going to interfere. This is really going to depend on your grip. I have a grip that goes on either side of the pen clip, so it's fine for me. And because of its weight, I tend to kind of, oops, I don't do that, but but I tend to kind of put my index finger here so that I can kind of grip it, so that it doesn't just slide out of my hand. But if you have a grip that goes over in any way, you might, just like the vanishing point from Pilot, which has a clip there. I'm actually going to compare this to the Pilot shortly. You may have some issues with it. And, is it worth $300 some? I don't know. It's a cool design. This is the piano, oh no, it's not the piano black, it's the matte black color. The piano black is shiny. I'm not a big fan of shiny pens, unless, they're supposed to be that way. I'm not a fan of black shiny pens, unless they're meant to be that way. Does that make sense? Because I do have several Sailors that are shiny, so maybe that was a misstatement. Anyway, let's move on. So this is the matte black. They have essentially, I think there's a stainless steel, there's a piano white, and a piano black. I think there's really only 4 colors. There's currently, I think it's a set of 4 pens with, beautiful decoration on it, on Kool-Aid pens right now for, I think, $27,000 of this model. So if you're into that, go for it. But I would never in a million years buy 4 pens for that price. So there you go. All right, so I'm going to test this pen out first, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the pen and compare it to the 2 other retractable pens that I have. So let's go ahead and get in here. Let's see, I've really used these pages to death. There's a lot in here. Oh yeah, and I never showed you that this is my nephew Theo's first experience with a fountain pen here. I thought he did very well. He was very careful. Okay, let's go to a completely clean page because I am going to compare some other pens here in the same area. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So let's go ahead and retract it. So this is a gold nib. This is a fine nib. So I actually ordered it with an extra fine nib. And I did that because I wanted to swap out the fine for an extra fine on the drawing pen that I was using, this Lamy Joy that I was using with a gold nib on it. This had a fine on it, and I felt like it was a little too broad for sketching, so I wanted an extra fine, which is why I ordered this in extra fine, and then I swapped the nibs. That's one thing that's really nice about the Lamys, at least this one. I think pretty much all of the models, other than the Lamy 2000, the nib unit can be swatched out. And actually, it's not even the unit. I misspoke. It's just the nib itself. You just slide it off. I used a little goulet grip that I put around it and then just pulled it off, and it came off really easy. And then you can either use the grip again to put it on the pen if it's a little tight, or you could just push it, and that worked fine too. So I swapped the nib with, like I said, the fine that I had on here, put the extra fine on here, and then I tried drawing with it, and I was really unhappy with it. And I wondered if it was the pen, so I actually swapped the nibs again and put, is this the Lamy Studio? I can never remember the name of this pen for some reason. So I actually swapped the nibs on these pens. This had a stainless steel extra fine. So now my drawing pen has a steel extra fine. And this one has a gold extra fine, which is slightly scratchy. But it's okay. I think it will soften in time because it is a gold nib. And when I actually tried to sketch with it in sort of a sketchy manner, it actually worked really well. The ink flow was really nice. And based on that, I think I have discovered that the ink that I'm using in here, which is the Platinum Carbon Black, which is a permanent ink, it's kind of globby. And I think I'm going to switch to the Diatramentis document ink for drawing. just because that's a little bit of a smoother ink. So I might end up swapping these out again and doing all that, but I just thought that I would tell you about the nib swapping options. Pretty much any level of Lamy you're going to be able to swatch. Even the Lamy Safari, you can swatch out the nib, etc. So let's go ahead and test this one out. So I'm going to leave it further out because I am going to show you other pens under here. So this is the Lamy Dialog 3. And this fine nib writes very broad. That's part of the reason why I wanted to switch it with the extra fine, because they generally run broad anyway, even in the stainless steel, and the gold, you're even going to notice that more. So this is the matte black version. Matte black, and with a fine 14 karat nib. And actually this nib is great. I love this nib. It's very smooth. It writes really well. I don't have any issues with it at all. And what did I put in here? I think I put Robert Oster Thunderstorm. Okay, Robert Oster Thunderstorm. This is an ink that I didn't think I was that crazy about, and then I ended up using it in several pens because it is very versatile and I like it a lot. Okay, so that is the Dialog 3. Now let me go ahead and I'll show this to you close up so you can see the line quality and all of that. But first I wanted to show you this compared to two other well, click pens. This one's not necessarily a click pen, but these are. So these are capless. These are all capless. That's really the main thing that distinguishes all of these. So this is a Pilot Vanishing Point in the dark blue, I believe. And this is a Curados, Platinum Curados in the red. And both of these, like I said, have a click mechanism. So there, and this one has a twist mechanism. So there they are all next to each other. I definitely think that the Dialog 3 is the largest. Let's see if we line up all of their nibs, we can really see. So yeah, it's definitely the largest. I would say it's almost an inch larger once it's retracted, or the nib is out. And then once the nib is retracted, I think actually the Curados is going to be longer because it has a really long, I think they call that the knock. Yes, so the Curados is the longest. The Vanishing Point is roughly the same size. This is in length. As far as the thickness, the Curados is almost as thick as the Dialog 3, but it's still a little bit thicker. This one, of course, being the thinnest of the three. They all have pen clips. You can remove the one on the Curados, but the other two are not removable. This one is obviously going to have a flatter profile for the pen clip, especially since it retracts when you put the nib out. This one is always going to be there. However, you know, again, I have a grip that goes on either side here, so it's not really an issue. This one definitely feels really nice in my hand. I like this a lot. It's kind of light, definitely, by comparison to this one. I would say that the Curados is probably, well, I mean, I think it's a little bit lighter than this one. I don't have a measuring device here, but I'm just feeling, you know, by feel, that's what it feels like. This one, you can probably, I mean, you can use this one-handed really easily. This one's a little harder because if you have bigger hands, it's not a problem, but I have smaller hands, and this has quite the long knock there. I mean, it's super long. And then this one, I really don't think you can do it with one hand, although let me see. Ooh, maybe you can. Ah, okay. There you go. You can do it with one hand. It's a little harder than doing it with two hands. So this one is probably the most complex as far as taking apart and filling. This one is pretty easy. I'll go ahead and open it. Let me unretract it and I will open it. This one, you just have this little unit. The whole nib unit comes out, and then you put it back in there like that. for filling, you take the whole nib unit out of each of these. So this one I will show you, you basically keep going when you go back to the line there, and you just take off the back. And then this nib unit actually screws in, which is kind of nice because you know it's secure when it's screwed in. And there is an ink window here, but it's only viewable when you have the nib unit out, or if you have this back area off, you can still see it. Yeah, because you could still see the nib unit where the ink is. You cannot see the ink level when this is closed, but the same is true for pretty much all of these, that you cannot see the ink, especially this one. This one you can't even see the ink when you open it, which is a little frustrating, but you know, it's fine. I have a cartridge in here now. This one has a converter with ink. So let me go ahead and write a sample with the other two, and then I will show that to you close up. So this is the Pilot. It's definitely bouncier. Pilot Vanishing Point. I mean, as far as a writing experience, I think I like the Vanishing Point the best. This is a medium 18K nib. And usually the higher your gold content, the softer the nib is going to be. And this is, I believe, it's just a Pilot blue cartridge in here. Okay, and you can see that although this is medium and this is fine, they're about the same line quality. So then let me move on to the Curidas. So this one is the, and again, this little thing down here, oh, it's awful. I think it writes well. Uh-oh, looks like I jinxed it. It hasn't been written with in a little while. So what I'm doing off camera here is I'm just dipping the nib into a little pot of water to kind of get the ink flowing again. That works pretty well if you have some dried out ink in there. Okay, here we go. So this is the Platinum Curidas. And this is a medium stainless nib. And in here, I believe I have Robert Oster Fire and Ice. Let me see what it's called. Fire and Ice, that's right. Fire and Ice. And so this is a medium, this is a medium, this is a fine. They're all very similar. All right, I'm going to put that up to the camera a little bit so you can see that a little better. The only reason why I had a little bit of a hard start here is because it had been sitting for a little while, and I wouldn't even really call that a hard start. I would say, I lean towards the gold nibs, just generally. I think that this has a very nice, the Pilot has a very nice bouncy, smooth writing experience. That's not always true of the Pilot Vanishing Point nibs. I have one that the nib has a, I think it's a rhodium coating, and that is not as bouncy as this one, which has a black coating. So, so this one is definitely my favorite of the two. And then the Lamy Dialog has just a very smooth writing experience, but not as bouncy. The Platinum Curidas, although it is smooth for a stainless steel nib, it's still not as smooth as the other two. So, you know, and as far as line quality, you can see if you want to get what would be, you know, a medium in these other pens, you'd get a fine. And that is part of why I did not go ahead and order a medium in this, in addition to wanting the extra fine nib for other purposes. I knew that I had this fine nib to swap out, and I knew that the fine nib would essentially be like a medium in these other two. Although, you know, I must say, these are smaller because they are Japanese pens, and the German pens are always going to run a little thicker. That's just sort of the general gist. All right, so that was probably a longer video than I had intended. I did want to compare these for you. It wasn't necessarily a technical comparison, but so you can see how they work. I would say that if you want to get a capless pen and you want something just sort of as an everyday writer, I would go just because of the price price issue, I would definitely go with the Pilot Vanishing Point over the other two. If you have disposable income and can get the Dialog 3, I would actually prefer the Dialog 3, although know that it is going to be a heftier pen and it is going to be bigger generally. And if that's an issue for you, again, Pilot Vanishing Point is kind of the perfect middle ground. Yeah, I think that I saw another review where someone was commenting on the fact that these were actually like each one was double the cost of the other. And I think that's pretty much true because, this one runs, what, $60 to $70 for the Curidas. And then this one's generally like 140, 130 to 140. You can probably get it cheaper if you shop around. And then this one is like $300. So it's true. They kind of jump up double in price. If you can find a good price on the Pilot Vanishing Point, I would say that is probably my preference of the three. But again, the Lamy Dialog 3 is great. And I kind of like the cigar shape, and it's just a very classy pen. And then I'll show you this mechanism again. It's just kind of fun to watch the little door open and your nib come out. It's a very cool design. It has a very big cool factor if that's something that matters to you. Oops, let's see. I think I may have gotten that. There we go. That alignment off a little bit when I opened it. Okay, so that's it for today. Feel free to like and subscribe so you can keep track of future videos. If you have any questions based on what I showed you today, feel free to ask below and I'll answer when I can. And I hope this was helpful to you in picking out, if you're in the market for a capless pen. These are essentially the options. I don't know that there are any others on the market right now, actually. There may be some more obscure brands that have capless pens, but of the major ones that are available, these are the three. So there you go. All right, thanks for joining me. Have a great day. Bye.